Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a mental model that some of the sharpest minds in history, from engineers to investors to ancient philosophers, have used to win when the stakes are incredibly high. It's called inversion thinking.
But first, let's talk about something we've all felt. You've got this brilliant plan, right? You've done all the research, you've thought through everything, and then it just completely falls apart. It goes spectacularly wrong. So what gives? Why does this keep happening?
Well, it is definitely not just you. In fact, studies show that a staggering 70% of big organizational change programs completely fail to hit their targets. It turns out that just planning for success is a surprisingly bad way to actually get there.
So what's going on? Is it just a string of bad luck? Nope. The real problem is a fundamental blind spot, one that's hardwired right into our brains. We are naturally, and often unhelpfully, biased towards only thinking about success. See, our brains have these default settings, these little cognitive traps. You've got confirmation bias, where we hunt for any little piece of evidence that proves our amazing plan is, well, amazing. Then there's the planning fallacy. That's when we get wildly optimistic, underestimating all the risks and how long things will take. And of course, survivorship bias, where we copy the one winner while completely ignoring the lessons from the thousands who failed.
But here's the crucial insight, the one we can use to our advantage. While we like thinking about gains, our brains take the threat of loss way more seriously. As Nobel laureates Kahneman and Tversky proved, losing something feels about twice as painful as gaining that same thing feels good. And that powerful psychological engine, that's what we're going to hijack.
So how do we fight back against our own default programming? How do we leverage that powerful aversion to loss? We use a brilliant little antidote called inversion thinking.
The main idea here is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly profound. Instead of obsessing over how to succeed, you meticulously plan to avoid all the ways you could possibly fail. You see, knowing what doesn't work is often a much more reliable strategy than just guessing at what does.
Okay, let's put these side by side so you can really see the difference. Normal, forward thinking is all about goals, right? The happy path to success. The problem is, it's super prone to wishful thinking and big blind spots. Inversion flips that completely. It focuses on the obstacles, the failure points. It forces you to actively look for the problems that could totally wreck your plan before they get the chance.
And look, this isn't some new age productivity hack. The great 19th century mathematician Carl Jacobi knew that a lot of really hard problems get surprisingly simple when you just turn them on their head. His advice was direct: invert, always invert.
So to make this super practical, we're going to boil this whole idea down into 3 power tools. Seriously, these are the only 3 things you need to know to start using inversion today. Think of them like stress tests for any plan you might have, big or small.
All right, let's get into our first tool. I like to call this one the saboteur. The technical term is goal inversion, and it's all about learning to think like your own worst enemy.
You just ask yourself this one simple, almost fun question. By forcing your brain to map out the exact path to total disaster, you suddenly shine a spotlight on all the hidden tripwires, all the weak points, and all the vulnerabilities that you were completely blind to just a minute before.
Okay, our second tool is the eraser, and this one is all about the power of simplification. It actually comes from an ancient concept called via negativa, which literally means the negative way.
This tool runs on a really simple principle. Taking away bad things is often way more powerful than adding new good things. So instead of asking, what new feature can we add, you start by asking, what can we subtract? What's already hurting us? What's the bottleneck? Let's get rid of that first.
And our third and final tool is what we'll call the autopsy. This one is an absolute game changer for teams. It's a technique famously called the pre-mortem, and it's one of the best ways I know to de-risk a big group project.
Here's how it works. You imagine failure has already happened. You tell your team, okay, it's a year from now and this whole thing was a total disaster. Tell me the story. What went wrong? This little trick of perspective hindsight makes it psychologically safe for everyone to identify potential problems without worrying about sounding negative or like they're not a team player.
Now, to really see how powerful this is under extreme pressure,
Let's look at one of the most famous examples of inversion in history,
a situation where thinking about failure was literally the only path to survival.
We all know the story. An oxygen tank explodes on Apollo 13, and in that one instant, the forward-thinking goal of landing on the moon became completely and terrifyingly irrelevant. Sticking to that original plan would have been a death sentence.
And what happened next at Mission Control is a masterclass in inversion. First, goal inversion. The mission wasn't success, it was survival. Avoid death at all costs. Then, they used the eraser, extreme subtraction. They ruthlessly shut down every single non-essential system to save every last watt of power. And for the CO2 problem, they didn't ask what they needed. They inverted the question. What can we possibly build with only the random junk they have on board? It was pure backward thinking, and it's what brought the crew home alive.
Okay, so that's a life or death crisis in deep space. How can you and I apply this powerful thinking in our own lives, starting today? Well, you don't need a spaceship disaster, I promise.
You can try this simple exercise called the daily inversion. It takes maybe 2 minutes. First, state your goal. Second, invert it. Ask yourself, how could I absolutely guarantee I fail at this? Third, identify the number one obstacle that would cause that failure. And fourth, and this is the most important part, take one small action right now to prevent that obstacle. It's a 2-minute habit that can save you hours of wasted effort.
So, I'll leave you with one final inverted question. We're all obsessed with what we should start doing to succeed. But what if the biggest unlock for your most important goal isn't found in a new action, but in the one thing you finally decide to stop doing?